We just made a net profit of $120,000 on this property in Reidsville, North Carolina. Now, on this video, I'm gonna do an interview with my partner, Jordan Budd, who was the guy on the ground that did this deal and put it together. And we're gonna show you exactly how we did this deal. Now, we did it following a technique called the takedown method. And this isn't anything new. A lot of people call this wholesaling. What we ended up doing was we ended up buying the property and then putting it on the MLS and reselling it for a $120,000 profit. Now, this technique called the takedown method is something that I'm talking quite a bit about right now. I think it's an amazing strategy. We actually doubled our profit. We had a cash buyer for $65,000, which was a home run deal in and of itself. That fell through. We ended up taking it down, which we bought it, we funded it, turned around and resold it on the MLS for $120,000. Literally doubled our profit by doing it this way. So it's a technique that you really need to learn. And I've got an entire series here on the channel about this. Be sure to go through that and watch that. There's a playlist link where you can learn all about how to do this strategy called the takedown method, even where to get 100% funding for these deals. Now, this is something I'm working on quite a bit to get 100% funding. We are now buying these deals if they fit the criteria in my 10K club program where you can be a finder for me and bring deals. We're working on a fund right now so that we can bring this financing to you, 100% funding, so that you can do these deals. So that's in the progress. And there are some major benefits to why this is a method that you should really consider and learn how to do. First of all, it's similar to wholesaling in that we're not rehabbing houses. We're not flipping in the traditional sense of buy it, do some value add by renovating, increase the value from the renovation, and then resell it for after repair value. We're not doing that. We're buying it at a discount off the as-is price. And then what we're doing is we're simply cleaning it out, trashing it out at the most, reselling it on market where you're getting maximum exposure in the marketplace by being on the MLS. The first benefit of doing the takedown method, which is hopefully obvious, is you make a lot more money. We're finding right now doing this technique that we're making 2 to 4 times as much profit doing a takedown wholesale than we do doing a traditional assignment or double close wholesale. So that in and of itself makes it an amazing strategy. Second is it makes the whole process a whole lot simpler because you're not up against the gun contingent on finding a cash buyer if you're gonna go through with the deal. There's no worry about disclosure to the seller because you are the buyer. You're not trying to find a new buyer. So that part's really clean and easy. And when you buy it and you trash it out, it's now vacant. It's easy to show. You don't really need a dispo department now because you're gonna put it on the MLS. So agents are gonna be the ones that sell it for you. So you outsource dispositions or finding a buyer. That part makes it really simplified. Another great benefit is regulation. Regulation is passing in a lot of states. Some of it's not very heavy regulation. Maybe it's disclosure. Maybe it's you need to have a license. Other states like South Carolina are trying to ban wholesaling and they're working hard to stop it. And so that will probably continue to happen. And this eliminates all of that because you buy it. So no longer are you creating any of those issues with regulation because you're the buyer and you actually take title and then resell it. So it's a phenomenal strategy all around, and we're really excited about this strategy. I'm going to be doing a lot of content showing you how we're putting these deals together, breaking them down with real live deals. This is a home run deal. We just did another one where it was a $62,000 total net profit on a takedown deal. So I'll be doing a video and breaking that down as well. But what I want to do right now is I want to cut to an interview I did on a live Zoom with my fast track students with my partner, Jordan Budd. And I interviewed Jordan and I asked him to explain how this deal all came about. And this one was accidental. At first, we tried to do an assignment, then we tried to do a novation, and all of those things created complication. And we ended up just going to the traditional takedown method, which I'm so glad we did because we killed it and knocked it out of the park with our profit. Now let's cut to that video and pay close attention here because I want you to really learn how this deal came together and why that was important. And I have a kit for you called the Takedown Method Kit. Go to freetakedownmethod.com. If you go there, you're going to get an entire suite of how to do this strategy from my deal analyzer, a guide on how to do it, scripts, and just a great packet of totally free for you to learn how to do this strategy. So be sure to get that as well. And let's cut to the interview. Well, Jordan, I'm really excited to talk to you about this deal, and we're going to do like a deal breakdown of a recent closing you had. Jordan, like I brag to everybody about your deal because it's just one of those deal of a lifetime deals. Hopefully, this becomes like a normal monthly thing, Jordan.
Yeah, for
That'd be
sure.
great, wouldn't it? I'm just super proud of you, Jordan, and just so glad that you're a partner with me and that we get to do great things in the world. And this deal that happened was like one of the most exciting deals I've seen in a long time. This was actually a takedown deal. So it was a assignment gone bad and then ended up becoming a let's just buy it and resell it on the MLS. So that's the context of this deal. And guys, just to put this in the proper viewpoint here, this was a $120,000 net profit deal. Absolutely phenomenal with no rehab, really no money out of pocket. Put it on the MLS, and right away there was massive activity for this deal. It's a historic home. It's kind of unique property. How many views did this get on Zillow, Jordan, before, by the end?
Yeah, like the day it sold, it had 50 some thousand views.
50,000 views on Zillow.
It's
Like
not never
I've never
seen.
seen that in my I've never seen that in my life, that many views on a listing on Zillow. And how many showings like in the first day or two?
It was crazy just the way we went about it. I mean, we hit these old farmhouse pages and like the Victorian stuff, like from the 1800s, it really is a thing. Like there's a lot of hype about it, and I did not know that. But once we realized that, we started to go into these like nationwide and these Facebook groups, and then from there it just went crazy. But we had to sell it within 3 days. It went on the MLS. We did coming soon for a week to like really, really build the anticipation and excitement, do all of our marketing. And there were people reaching out from other states and all over the place, like planning their travels to come in for the weekend. And we only did showings Friday through Sunday. And Friday and Sunday were only for agents. So you had to like book it in the MLS and schedule the showing. But Saturday was an open house, and we had, I mean, hundreds of people there on Saturday. And over the course of just Friday to Sunday, I'd say there was easily, probably 1,000 people that came through that house is a pretty safe number, maybe a little less than 1,000.
Okay, so this is it. Like you're right. It's like this Victorian house. Jordan, how did you secure this deal? Let's start there. Like what happened? Where did this lead come from? And how did you lock this up with the seller?
Yeah, this one actually came from direct mail. Direct mail call, built a rapport. It came into actually Tracy, our lead manager, acquisition manager, and she just hit it off with the sellers and started learning about the history of the property and everything that they're going through in their lives. And we set the appointment and got there and got in front of them, saw the house. 90% of everything that I'm doing, I tell a lot of the people that are on this call as well, maybe not 90%, but like maybe 60% or 70% is really not about the real estate. And so that was the case on this. Like everything up front, it was not about the numbers. It wasn't about any of that stuff. It was about them, the house, the situation. So yeah, we got an appointment and we, signed a contract right then and there with them.
And were they living in the home?
No, and that's another thing that made this crazy. There was a lead-based exposure case in this home, and the health department was tied up in it. So we uncovered all of that stuff, the motivation. They lived about an hour away. They drove up to the property. We just uncovered all that, figured out what was needed, and what was needed was like, we're done with this.
And why do you think they didn't list it with an agent and try to go retail?
One was disclosure. They were scared about disclosure, and a big selling point for the way we did this was that's on me.
Closure with lead paint?
Yeah, the disclosure with lead paint and them having to share the history behind the property, and they were just scared of it. Also, all the showings, people coming in and out of it, the fact that it's an old, I mean, there was artwork in the house that was probably worth more than the house itself. And he was really, really attached to all that up front. And so he was like, I don't want a sign in the yard. I don't want people knowing this is for sale. I don't want people walking through it. Now, he did open that up eventually to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we had to be there. We were there all weekend.
So you locked it up for how much?
235.
235. Now, was that their number, your number? How'd you get to that number?
It was a little bit more so of theirs because I such a unique property, but I came in just with, the good old, anchor. And I was like, in a perfect world, I'd love to be under two. They floated around the 230, 250 kind of mark to the acquisition manager. We didn't really give it a lot of credibility. We just went on appointment. I anchored. they came back and they were like, we know what the house is worth. Like there's a point that it would just be stupid if we sold it lower than that. We already know we're taking a huge hit. We're selling the house for less than what just the repairs that we've put into it, were. They did a new roof, new foundation, all this stuff. So they kind of landed on that number, and I just looked at them and said, let's do it. Let's see if I can pull this off. And what I will guarantee you is I'll do all my due diligence quickly and efficiently. And if for any reason there's something scary that you don't know about and I don't know about, I'll let you know right away. And so at the end of that week, then it was the follow-up call of we're good to go.
Yeah, and I love that, Jordan. Like that positioning you just explained is how I position almost every single one of my deals. I tell the seller right up front, I say, look, let's approve an agreement, right? Let's get something in place, but I need a little bit of window to go in here and do due diligence because it's an older home or it needs a bunch of work, or I don't really have my head around what's going on totally at this point. I can't spend the time, energy, and effort on doing that unless we have something in place. Let's get something in place. But then I need a little bit of time. Give me a week or 10 days. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in there with my investors, with my partners, with my contractors. And if there's anything at all we find that would change this number that we're agreeing on, I'm going to let you know right away. And what you've just done there is you've been totally honest, for one, because that is what we do. We're going to go in now and dig into the deal and see if we can do something with this. And we're going to uncover everything. Like this is when you uncover everything. Whether you uncover it or your buyers uncover it, it's all coming to light. Like you can't have a chopped off head in the freezer in the basement and it not come to light at some point. Like it's going to come to light. And that's actually what our true story, guys, by the way, if you don't know. When you position things that way, now the seller has the right expectations about what's happening. Then when you go back and you're like, hey, you know what? There's this foundation issue, or there's this, or there's that. I didn't know that. That wasn't clear to me up front. Now it is. We still want to buy it, but now we got to talk about this. And if you do need to renegotiate, you've prepped yourself properly for that when that time comes to have that conversation. In your case, you didn't need to. Everything checked out and you were like, let's go, green light.
Something just to say for the record, like slowly but surely gotten better at setting those expectations. And there is a very, very nice way to present those and set them professionally. And, that's beneficial for us and the seller and everybody else involved. I used to like really tiptoe around it or not really know exactly what to say or how to handle the showings or like just how to go about the deal. And now I think we figured out a really smooth way when you just nailed it on the head.
Yeah, good. Okay, so 235, you did your due diligence on that. Now tell me what you did at first to try to move this property. You were thinking originally an assignment, right?
Right off the bat, we did photos, we did all that good stuff, and we hit investor lift and started talking to some of our local cash buyers. I knew the circumstances with the seller, this was not going to work to like blast, have a bunch of people that I didn't know seeing the property. So we really were kind of a little bit more specific with the way we dispoed it. Just VIP buyers on investor lift, vetted buyers. We reached out to our sphere of buyers and we actually locked up a buyer at 300. Oh my gosh, 65K, like quick deal, no showings needed, like just quick. And then you fast forward a week later after all the lead-based paint due diligence, and slows that up front too, but then they were like, no, we can't make this work. And they backed out.
Which, if you think about it, like let's say that had gone through, a 65K assignment is about as big a home run as you can get in the wholesale world. Like that's phenomenal that you could do a $65,000 assignment. So part of this deal was just that it was just an awesome, awesome deal in and of itself. No matter what you did with this property, it was a great deal. I've been telling people as I've shared this story, Jordan, about this deal, we ended up taking it down and making twice as much, but just had you not, it was still a phenomenal deal. What's exciting though, was now seeing the comparison about what happens when you can take it down, take it to market, because this was off market, and then bring it to market, how that allowed you to get even more exposure, more eyeballs on this thing. And the best way to get the highest price is usually almost always the MLS, because that's the most exposure in the marketplace is back on the MLS. So when this buyer fell through, what happened next? I mean, what was the concern there? At any point, was the seller going squirrely with you? Like what happened between your buyer falling out and the next step?
Well, the buyer backed out and I actually gave him back his EMD. It was 5,000 EMD and he was such an education to me. I gave him back his 5 grand because he then uncovered everything we needed to know about lead-based paint. Like he knew everything that the seller didn't know, I didn't know. So yeah, then I had to pivot back to the seller and I basically went back and that's whenever we pivoted. And I said, guys, I still want to see this to the finish line. I still want to get this done. I know you guys are done with this, but we've got to go one or two routes. I either need more time, aka find another buyer, or I have this really, really cool solution that I can have more time in the meantime and still pursue it myself and also make sure that we're not missing out on any other buyers that might just be willing to take this off of everybody's hands. But
Yeah.
basically, we started then facilitating the novation idea.
Yeah.
It was like the whole no sign in the yard, like not many showings. Me and my team will get all of everybody that, needs to see this property. We'll get them all in at a certain time. House is protected, everything's protected. Like we're there. We'll market it. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then we pivoted that route.
Did the seller have any issues with you not being the end buyer? How did you maneuver that with the seller?
You remember when I called you and said, "Hey, what do I do?"
Yeah.
uh, that's when things did go a little bit south. So this is where it changed. So after that conversation on a Monday with the sellers, I said, guys, I need this week to get the house ready. We're going to clean it up. We're going to do landscaping. We're going to do all this stuff. And on Friday, it's going to go coming soon on the MLS. Nobody will be allowed at your house. There won't be any showings, none of that stuff, but we'll start marketing and building up the excitement for the following Friday. That's when showings will start Friday through Sunday. Now, after Sunday, the end of the day, Sunday, I'm going to know whether or not this thing sold or not. The wife kept asking, well, what's the timeline from that? And I'm like, well, it might be another 30 days from there. But once we secure the buyer Sunday night, then we've got another, probably 20, 30, 40 days to go for that buyer because most likely it's going to be a conventional, like retail buyer, not a cash buyer, fix and flip guy. We deep cleaned the house. We did all that stuff, professional photography, went on market. Like it just started going crazy and crazy and crazy. But then the sellers caught wind of what was going on. And they were like, we're hearing people saying that this house might sell for $400,000. And if we would have had more time on market, if we could have actually owned it up front, listed it like the full blown takedown method, we would have crushed the 350 sell price.
Yeah.
We probably would have gotten 400, 450, like truthfully.
Which this was a good lesson to us about, the next go around when we get one like this.
Yeah, and this is whenever we just started talking about trying to
Yeah.
take these down. But yeah, that happened, and then the sellers basically came to me and said, if you want the upside in this, you need to close by tomorrow evening. And they were like, otherwise, we're just going to kind of do this ourselves.
So guys, this is where a novation can get dicey because think about this. The seller's got an agreement with Jordan at 235. All of a sudden they see it on the MLS for 350 and they see all the activity. And now they're like, okay, a minute ago we were okay with 235, but now we're not, right? So in their mind, they start seeing lost dollars that went in their pocket. And this is very typical of a novation. This is why novations can be very challenging because when the sellers catch wind of how much you make, they can have a problem with it. That's why that wasn't a clean strategy either. And when you and I got on the phone and talked about it, there were a couple options. Do we offer them more money? The solution we came to is, hey, if we can close this thing on Friday and get them money in their pocket, then they'll stick to the price they agreed on. And that seemed like the smartest, best move to do at that point in time was to just, let's take this thing down and buy this thing and get that seller paid off, which ended up being the smartest move because then now you own it. It's ours, right? The seller's out and now we can do whatever we want.
Crazy big lessons learned here. Like if we would have done that up front, it would have been a totally different situation. One of the awesome things was we were able to pivot so many times. But if we could have avoided all that pivoting and really, grew that six-figure deal even higher if we would have done the full-fledged takedown up front, done all of this ourselves. But it's just a good lesson that when deals start getting a little weird, like you do have to pivot and you do have to figure it out. And it was up to, Do we just basically say, hey guys, you signed this, this is what we're doing, but I was telling you, hey, it started getting to where like I don't want to lose this deal. This is a big deal. If we got to, come up with a couple $100,000 to close on this right now, like it's worth it.
The other great thing here that was really amazing was you were able to access a line of credit and basically fund this purchase with very minimal cost. Even if that wouldn't have been the case, and let's say that you had to pay 10, 15, $20,000, it would have been a 100K deal, not a 120K deal. Like it still would have been the right move. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when we take down these deals and they're short term, like we're going to take it down, we're going to put it back on the MLS. Hopefully we're in this deal 30, 60, maybe 90 days max. If we're looking for 100% funding, that funding can be expensive, but it's less about the cost of capital and more about the access to capital. So like you and I have been having this conversations. One of the biggest things I'm doing right now or trying to do right now is get accessible capital available so that when this happens right out of the gate up front and you're like, Jerry, I'm walking out of an appointment with a seller. I got a banger deal. We need to buy this one so we can resell it on the open market. That capital's there. I think the key to this game and the point of this strategy is that you have to become highly capitalized to really do well with this. And I'm glad this all happened too, Jordan, because had it not happened and your buyer came through, we would have just moved on with life. It would have been an awesome assignment. It had been a great month. It had been all cool, but we would have missed out on the lessons learned from your buyer falling through, pivoting, novation falling through, pivoting, takedown happening, and making still a really good profit on the deal. And I didn't even think about what you said where had you taken it down from the get-go, because then you could have priced it more aggressively. You wouldn't have been worried about that seller like you were. Like 350 was like, let's get it done. It's still good, but if I push it anymore, the more I push this, the more I'm going to have an issue with the seller. Whereas if you would have owned it, then you wouldn't have worried about any of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. We priced that thing on the MLS at 250. And I just bring that up to say that because the seller with the whole novation idea, they were cool with it, but they were scared to overprice it and this thing sit and not move. I intentionally priced it at a price that was just enough to pay off realtor commissions and net them to 235. And I knew that if this thing soar over asking price, that's whatever we kept. I just didn't know how far it would soar. And we didn't take the highest offer either. We had an offer at 370. And that was just conventional though, with 45-day close and all that. So we went with a strong cash buyer.
Just to get it done, get out of the deal sooner. Well, Jordan, love the story on this deal and what a great lesson. Guys, leave a comment and say, Jordan, you're a flipping genius. And what do you think, Jordan, was you shared some great lessons, but what was your biggest lesson in this deal?
So many lessons. I'm learning so much every single day, and every single deal that we're doing is different. The more tools in your belt, the better. And proud moment that I had was like, man, it really felt good to know that we had everything covered from the quick cash purchase, the assignment thing, the off market, the on market, the MLS, our team, like whatever the case may be. Yeah, if there's any lesson, just like have the tools to provide your clients with. And I've only been in real estate since I joined your program in the beginning of 2022. And I didn't get serious until the beginning of the middle of 2022. And then didn't actually get like legit about it until we started Joe Homebuyer. And so the lesson has just been like build up those tools and put in the work to where we can get to this place where now we have all these options.
I think a couple lessons. For one, for you look at everything as either I win or I learn. You don't have this emotional roller coaster through these challenges in business. You tend to be very resourceful. I think a big lesson that I learned was like your ability to pivot, just look for the next solution to the problem at hand. And that says a lot about you and who you are and how you operate. A lot of people, this kind of stuff, like the stress and anxiety of this deal would have been too much. Maybe they would have backed out or, threw in the towel, and you just handled the next thing. And okay, well, now that's creating some problems. What's the next solution? I think that's what makes you unique in your ability to perform at a high level is just, you're going to take what's given to you and you're going to be resourceful with whatever you can and find solutions. And really, this is just a solution business, right? We just solve problems, and the better we are and the bigger the problems we solve, the more money we make and the more lives we impact. And so you want to make more money, bring more value, solve more problems. or bigger problems or bigger value. And that's really, your income is in direct proportion to the problems you solve and the value you bring to the marketplace. And like, this is a great example of that.
Yeah. And the pressure, the whole stressful anxiety piece of it, like that is true, and I've had some of that recently just because of we're solving all these problems and now we're starting to solve a lot of people's problems, and we have to build the infrastructure and the systems to be able to do that at a bigger level. But somebody's got to handle the BS. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of us that's handling it right now. And as far as this being a big deal, like it's kind of a home run deal, but now we've just broken that ceiling. And it's like, let's solve bigger and better problems, and the bigger problems we solve and all of that. Like if you think about it directly from what we profited on this deal to the size of the problem of this deal, they're pretty proportional.
Yeah.
Like
I
this,
agree.
this paint thing is in the exposure case and the circumstances with the seller, like it was a big problem. And so we made a big spread on it.
I think the income you earned was proportionate to the problems you solved. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And just be prepared to lose your hair. Jared, do you feel like you have pressure or stress on you, like in a business sense, kind of on a daily or a weekly sense, like not anxiety necessarily, but do you feel a sense of like just kind of pressure with the amount of things that you take care of and manage and have to do?
Definitely. I just have learned to sit in it well. Like that's the only difference is like, I get just as worried or anxious or stressed out. I have sleepless nights. What people do is they make that mean something's going wrong. And I've learned to make that mean nothing's going wrong. In fact, it's supposed to be that way because unless I'm outside my comfort zone, which is uncomfortable, I'm not growing. I actually look now at like, okay, if I'm outside my comfort zone and I'm feeling slightly anxious to moderately anxious, then that means I'm actually in the right place for growth. And I've got a big growth pattern coming through or coming up in my life, because that's when you grow. You don't grow when everything's going easy and smooth and there is no stress. If you're in that place, then you stop growing. It's only under pressure where we grow. So I just try to keep myself in a slightly anxious state all the time. Having done that now for a while and normalizing that now makes it so that it's not that weird. It's not debilitating. It's not a limitation to me anymore. Some people, they get all locked up and they can't make decisions and they can't function well. And whereas I thrive in it. Like I function really well. In fact, nothing pressures me better than being in a slight deficit of some kind, because then I step up, I find the answers, and I'm engaged now because I've got to solve a problem. So I like it. It's actually good for you if you can learn to tolerate it.